Hey, this is Antonio. Welcome back to my channel. We're going to have some fighting words. But before we go any further, as always, I need for you to like this video and please subscribe to the channel. So I've already done the fight breakdown on Canelo Alvarez versus Caleb Plant. Now it's time for us to get the fight breakdown for Caleb Plant versus Canelo Alvarez. So I just want to go through the pros, what he does really well. So let's see, Caleb Plant. The first thing that you notice when you see Caleb Plant is speed. He's very fast, for his size, he's very fast. And I'm not just talking about his hand speed, I'm also talking about his footwork and his awareness of the ring and just his reflexes. He's very, very fast, and he can spring from here to here quickly. And that's offensively or defensively, and that's important. And that's actually a really great attribute of his to have. Secondly, I would just say Caleb Plant is extremely, extremely creative. That is going to be something that's always going to be a hurdle for whoever is going to fight him, whether Canelo Alvarez or whomever in the future. It's always going to be a problem for them to deal with Caleb Plant because he's creative. He can just kind of do things in there. Not everybody is a natural fighter. It just has a natural instinct in there, and he's one of those people who are just, he's very fluid, very, very fluid. I'm not saying he's Roy Jones. I'm just saying, like Roy Jones, he's very fluid, and because Roy Jones could do some amazing things, you know. And Caleb Plant, no, and please hear me, because every time I say something, somebody takes it out of context. I'm not saying Caleb Plant is Roy Jones. I'm just simply saying he's creative, like Roy Jones. That's all I'm saying. He's very creative. He's creative again, not just up top with his punches, but also with his footwork. You know, a lot of times you'll look at another guy and you'll try to see where his feet are to try to figure out what he's doing, and or his hands or his shoulders or whatever, to try to figure out what he's doing. But Caleb Plant, it's not like he's just some one-dimensional guy where he's just doing feints up here. He knows how to do a feint with his legs. You think he's doing this and he does that. You think he's going here, but he's really going here. He's very tricky. He's very tricky like that, and he's just crafty. And the thing about Caleb that I really like is as the fight goes on, he gets better at it. Like, he's warming up, you know. So what you see in round, I don't know, 2 or 3 is not going to be anything compared to what you're going to see in round 5, 7. It's not going to be anything like that. It's just going to be more fluid motion, more creativity. The more you give him to work with, the more you're going to bring out of him, you know, because he's constantly thinking. He's constantly. I did say this in the Canelo video for the Canelo fight breakdown. Caleb Plant is always thinking. And just to clarify again, I said Caleb Plant is a thinker like Lomachenko. He's a thinker. He's not just randomly doing things. It might look like that because it happens so quickly, but he's not just randomly doing things. Sometimes you can just set a trap, or you can just frustrate people because you're not where you think they should be, or they're not doing what you thought they should be doing, or something of that nature. You know, because honestly, it could be a little repetitious when you're boxing. You know, especially if you're just used to boxing people who maybe a particular style. You might be used to boxing a particular style, and then you get somebody who is like, "Well, I don't fight like that." You know, and I don't lead off the jab. I don't do that. You know, sometimes I'll lead with my power hand. Sometimes I'll switch steps. You know, I might switch and jab with my left hand. I don't know, but I don't do it like that. And because sometimes we get caught up in the motions and we're like, whoa, what is he doing? You know, I trained for this guy. You know, when I watched the fight tape, this is what he was doing. Caleb Plant is that guy. He's going to frustrate you, because you can't ever truly get a read on what the man is doing, because 2 rounds from now, it's not going to look like this. So you can't bank on what you're seeing now, and you also can't bank on a lot of fight footage. I mean, obviously you can, and you want to use fight footage, but because of the way he fights, a lot of things could change, and they could change on the fly. So that's why being creative is always going to be a problem for whomever he fights. Now, 5 years from now, it's always going to be a problem. It's always going to be a problem. You know, there's a question of like, Caleb Plant's power? Well, I mean, he may not have as many knockouts as Canelo, but then again, he doesn't have as many fights as Canelo. Um, so there you go. That doesn't mean he doesn't have power or anything like that. I believe he has enough. I think he's a big enough guy to where he could get Canelo's attention. I mean, if you look at it, Billy Joe Saunders, he's not known for his punching power, but Canelo wasn't just running in on him, like not at first, so once he smelled blood, he certainly ran at him, but like not at first. And I think, because you're dealing with bigger guys, because you're dealing with bigger guys and you're going up in weight, you have to be a little bit more cautious because these bigger guys are packing a bigger blow. So do I think that, Caleb Plant could knock out Canelo Alvarez? I don't know. Listen, I've been in enough gyms and enough rings to know pretty much anybody can put anybody down. The question is, could you keep them down? Anybody can get anybody and get them off their feet. Can you keep them down? That's a whole nother question. The only reason why I'm going to say no is this. Because Triple G couldn't knock out Canelo. Triple G couldn't make Canelo stumble. Triple G didn't make Canelo dizzy. You remember Canelo was shaking his head. That's not going to cut it. That's not going to cut it. So if Triple G couldn't do it, I think it's a fair and safe assessment to say that maybe Caleb Plant is not going to have the punching power to knock out Canelo. But because of the way he fights and because of how slippery he is, I said this in the Canelo breakdown, I'll say it again. He could easily catch Canelo off balance, either coming in or backing back out. Because of the way he fights, he could just clip you with something. Where you come in, you might overstep or something like that. But he has great footwork, and he's great balance, great footwork, and he's fast. And again, it's important when I say he's not just fast up top with his hands, he's fast with his legs, and that's important. So could he just kind of clip you with? Yeah, he could clip you with something. Yeah, he could. It's possible. I don't think it's possible for him to knock out Canelo. I mean, I suppose anybody can knock anybody out at this level. So I don't want to say it's impossible. But the likelihood, I'd probably say, I don't foresee that happening. And again, I'm banking a lot of that on the Triple G fight. Canelo took some bombs, and it didn't seem to bother him a whole lot, to be honest with you. He ate those things. He ate them like a champion. So now let's just talk about some of the things that, worry me a little bit about Caleb Plant. First, he doesn't fight that well in the pocket. He's better with space. Guys like him, true natural boxers, guys who like to move and, they need that space to think. He doesn't do that well in the pocket. He's not the best fighter in the pocket. That's not going to be his safe place in the fight. His safe place is going to be, center of the ring, having some space where he can dance around, he can move, he can jab, he can do his little Caleb Plant thing, and he can do all that stuff. I don't want to see him in close quarters where, he has to hold some high guard and maybe fight out of a Philly shell or something like that. Because Canelo lives there, and you don't want to go there. That will be a very dark place if you go there. Canelo lives in that place, and Canelo is a master of that place. He's a really good infighter. He's really good on edging his way in, and then once he gets there, calmly planting himself there. Not like some people who jump in and jump out, but Canelo has a way of edging his way in, and before you know it, he's there, and then just kind of staying there and kind of drawing you in. I don't think Caleb Plant is the type of guy who would get lured into Canelo's tricks. And I've said this in many videos about Canelo. Canelo has this thing about where, for some reason, guys get mesmerized. And I believe it's because he's smaller than them. That it's like a mental thing, like, I'm not backing down from this smaller guy. I'm the big guy here. I'm not backing down. And they get stuck in this place, and they end up standing in front of Canelo longer than they should have. I don't believe Caleb Plant will fall into that that little rabbit hole. And I hope he doesn't fall into that little rabbit hole. That's a nasty little hole that people just continue to like trip and fall into, and then they can't get themselves out of it. Before they know it, it's like, man, I'm like 9 rounds in, and I've been in this hole with this mad dog over here. So I don't foresee Caleb Plant getting caught up in that. I hope he doesn't. Um, Everything about him just says, like he's not going to do what everybody else has done. And I know he's been doing his homework. And the beautiful upside for Caleb Plant is he has so much to look at in terms of Canelo's resume and his career, his portfolio. And he can look at people who, probably do something like him, like maybe this like him or that like him. But he can also gauge, all right, that's that thing that he does that kind of pulls them in. I need to watch out for that. I need to watch out for that. Canelo has a thing where he'll kind of lower his hands, stick his chin out, and it just draws you in. It's like, you know what? You're smaller than me, I'm bigger than you, and your chin is right there. And it happens time and time and time again. I mean, Canelo's last fight was a perfect example of that. It just happened. I don't think Caleb Plant will fall into that. I hope he doesn't. I hope he learned from the Billy Joe Saunders fight. I feel like the Billy Joe Saunders fight is so important to Caleb Plant because, again, I'm not saying they fight alike, but they do use their legs a lot, both of them. So I hope he's paying close attention to that fight, and I hope he, he's seen that fight enough to where he's going to say, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to be a stationary fighter. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to give you what you need to be successful against me. So I hope he doesn't fight in the pocket. I haven't really seen much of Caleb Plant fight in the pocket, to be honest with you. And when he doesn't stay there very long, which is a good thing. Listen, if that's not where you're comfortable, get out of there. Tie him up. Do what you got to do, make the refs separate you guys, and you can just skeet on out of there. That's what you got to do. I just think this is going to be a good fight for Styles, so we've been hearing that Canelo wants to fight the Benavidez's and the Charlos of the world. Okay, well you're gonna Caleb Plant is a great doorway to gauge how you're going to do against those guys. Now, I'm not saying those guys have the best legs in the world, but I am saying that Caleb Plant is a great doorway to see how well you can handle people who aren't going to be like a Triple G, who aren't just going to try to walk you down, or Kovalev, or, just these huge guys that you've been fighting that literally are slow and you could just kind of have your way with them. I don't think in the mental game you're going to have that much of your way with Caleb Plant because, again, he's never lost. And that also is a great advantage. He has a winner's mentality. He's never lost. Why should he go in thinking, I'm fighting Canelo? He never lost. Canelo has a loss. Caleb Plant doesn't have a loss. He has every reason to believe he's going to win this fight. And that's another notch for him. The mental game. Contrary to what people are saying and how many videos are going out and Caleb Plant has no chance. Well, who's to say? The man has never lost. What are you basing that off of? You're not basing that off of anything. The only reason why you're saying that is because he's fighting Canelo. And the only reason why you're saying that is because of Canelo's resume. But resumes aside, Caleb Plant has never lost a professional bout. He has no reason to sit up at night biting his nails because he's never lost. It's huge when you go in there with an unbeaten mindset. It was Roy Jones who said, I had to change what I wanted in this sport once I got my first loss because it was gone. The O was gone. So now it was just like, okay, it's out of my hands now. If you look at look at Anthony Joshua when he lost to Ruiz. I mean, afterwards, it just seemed like, something that was taken from him. Like, well, I've already lost, so whatever happens, happens from this point out because I've already lost. And that's what happens when you lose the O. And he hasn't lost the O. Yes, the Floyd fight with Canelo made Canelo a better fighter, but nonetheless, it still goes down as a loss on his record. Period. He knows what it feels like to lose. This guy does not. He has no clue professionally what it feels like to lose. So that's a big plus. Do I think Caleb Plant can win this fight? I think he possesses certain skills and attributes that are going to make it, could make it extremely difficult for Canelo Alvarez. I think he possesses certain skills and attributes that can make him very successful in this fight. I think it's all about staying true to yourself and doing what you do best and not being lured into somebody else's game and somebody else's fight. If he can do those things, I think he could be successful. I absolutely do. And not to mention, he has a champion's mindset. You're talking about an undefeated fighter. That is important. That's important. There should be no doubt creeping in his mind because he's undefeated. Why would he be doubting? Doubting what? It's not his first rodeo. He's been doing this for a long time. True boxing heads know exactly who he is and what he's about. He's no joke. He can be successful. Absolutely, he can be successful. But I want to know what you think down below. You know the routine. Please drop some comments. I love reading them. And please, please, please circulate these videos. And that's it.